Welcome to Magdi-AI Tutorials. I'm your host, Maggie, and I'm here to help you make the most of Magdi-AI, your software quality assurance AI assistant. And in this tutorial, I'm just going to show you a couple of additional examples how we can use Magdi-AI to support our everyday work on our job. So, as I might have mentioned in one of the earlier videos, one of the inspirations behind creating Magdi AI was I really have worked in software testing and quality assurance for over 25 years. One common theme that has existed throughout is time. Whenever you work in software development, there never seems to be enough time for anyone, especially QA, because I really don't care what type of development methodology you're using, we're always at the end of the line when it comes to testing. So we end up finding ourselves in a position where, yeah, there are some things we can be proactive about and develop, but a lot of times we are finding ourselves kind of really slim on time and trying to accomplish many tasks during that time. And oftentimes, to be honest with you, we really don't have an opportunity to do everything we know we should do because of the time constraints. And so we kind of get right into testing. Even at times, there are people they don't have an opportunity to even create tests because they are so short on time. So they rely on exploratory testing, but then sometimes you kind of don't really have a baseline that you can compare to see if the quality in your systems are improving or if they're degrading. So I thought of a couple of additional examples to kind of help us maximize Magdi AI to help us with non software testing tasks and kind of utilize the small amount of time that we have available. So we're going to begin with Magdi Sage, our information assistant, that we can utilize to gather information, help us do research, or even help us during a learning curve. So in this particular example, um, I am a quality assurance person that has joined a relatively young company, and they don't officially have a quality assurance team, nor do they have processes. I have been in this position a number of times, and you go into a company and the developers do the testing, and they often do a very good job. But when you look at it from a quality assurance point of view, there is no quality management system. There is no test strategy, no processes, no lab. There, there are no other quality assurance professionals you can work with. So, if you're still relatively young in the quality assurance field, you might want to say, man, this is a bit overwhelming. How do I get started? So we want to give this prompt to Magdi AI because we want some inspiration or we want some suggestions on how to get started. So I'm giving it this prompt and it says, I just joined a new company to develop software for derivatives trading. I'm mentioning the type of software because we want to engineer our quality management system geared towards this type of solution. QA is new to this company. Can you provide a summarized outline of how I should begin developing the team and process to support QA and software testing for this company? We work with Agile and we will execute system regression, performance, security, and user acceptance tests supported with AI regularly. So let's see what Magni AI returns as to kind of give us some guidance on how we can kind of get started with this huge endeavor. A lot of times when you end up in this position, not only are you trying to get the ball rolling, but you're also the only one doing QA. And let me tell you, you come into the fold and it's like, oh, thank God we have somebody to do QA. So they dump all of the testing on you. And it can be pretty overwhelming depending on the complexity of the app. For those of you who might have worked with financial systems, you know that they can be very complex. They often have very complex mathematical models that are very difficult for a non financial person to try and test, because you have to kind of figure out how we verify the results of the calculations provided. And in the financial sector, it is very, very, very important to have accurate results. There's a story with NASDAQ many years ago where a developer placed a comma in the wrong place, and it wasn't caught during testing, and the results cost millions of dollars. So Magdi AI has responded, and let's see what it kind of tells us. So again, because we're using Magdi Sage, it is confirming the question that we asked, and it says here's the response. So it's kind of given us a 90-day plan. That's kind of cool because it will help us develop a project plan for implementation. And it kind of tells you what day 0 through 30 should look like. So you want to assess and stabilize. It gives you key points that you can utilize to kind of perform those tasks. It tells you what should happen between days 31 and 60, which is build the spine. So you could see it saying, you could create test environments and data, synthetic market data. You can also create an automation foundation with API first test. You can create a performance baseline, a security baseline, and a UAT cadence. And then it kind of outlines the plan for 61 through 90 days and scale and harden. So you want to start expanding your test coverage. You want to improve the test that you already created, and even detected that, yeah, you're going to have some flaky tests when you're using automation. Um, I myself have not seen where you do not have flaky automation tests, especially when your framework is rather young. Depending on the type of project you are automating, and the complexity and the tech stack it supports, automation can be simple or automation can be very complex. And then it kind of goes into what you should do as far as building up the team and defining the roles, stating that you want it to be lean and cross functional. It outlines the roles that should play a role in this particular team. And I can tell you from experience, when you're starting up with a QA team, everything has to be justified in a budget if you're talking about adding additional costs to the company. So this all sounds good that you have a manager and you have software development engineers and tests, you have performance engineer. Yeah, that's all cute. But 9 times out of 10, when you're beginning this type of effort, you are the QA manager, the lead, the software tester, uh, and you probably won't even have an opportunity to get into performance and security testing, but you can always rely on the development team to kind of provide provide that additional support that you require, especially depending on the solution that you're testing. And then a lot of times there are developers that have within their unit testing scope tests that delve into performance and security. So that helps. You can also kind of outsource those, but again, that also depends on the budget available. um, it highlights that you should do a process blueprint, which means that you're kind of defining your definition of ready, your requirements, what ceremonies will you host. It talks about developing your testing strategy. It makes a recommendation of using the test pyramid and being trading aware. So you can scroll through this and you can kind of see that it gives you an overview of every area you should consider and what key activities should happen during that section. And again, this is just a suggestion because the reality of it is you can only implement based on the time that you have available and the budget that's made available to you to grow the QA team. Now, one of the things that I don't see here that you can ask Maggie to kind of help you with is either creating a projected budget for this team, doing a cost benefit analysis, because again, anytime you're asking a company to spend money, you have to justify the cost. So here we have some additional links that you can refer to if you require any additional information. So that's one additional example of how we can use Magdi AI, uh, using the Magdi Sage agent to help us with our research or help us overcome learning curves, as well as provide us with additional information. I mentioned one time back that even seasoned QA people require a refresher course. So I click the back button, which redirects us back to the welcome screen. And we're going to go through one more example using Magdi Test Gen Build Test Plus framework. So let's click on that. And what we want to do is create tests. That is the sole purpose of Magdi Test Gen, is to help you create tests. So, because we haven't provided any additional information, we expect Magdi AI to ask us for additional information so we can help it create the tests that we require. And since AI has come onto the scene, and speaking from an automation point of view, AI is a godsend. It may not give you a 100% solution, but it can definitely help you really set up your framework and give you probably, I would estimate, 70% of the solution. And then you kind of have to fill in the gaps on the last 30%, but you can still use AI to kind of help you fill in those gaps. So AI is really, really helpful in helping you get started far more quickly than if we used our own brain power, which there's nothing wrong with using our own brain power, but it is very helpful. So, as anticipated, is asking you, hey, I'm happy to help. Here's some additional information that I require. Do you want to create manual or automated tests? So, we're going to tell it that we want to create automated security tests. Security test is not something your system testers or functional testers often do. Usually there's a specialized team to do it. But again, a lot of times when you work for a small company, you end up participating in more roles than what is initially required from you. So we're going to click send, wait for a response. And if anything, even if you're not executing these tests, you can also kind of use it to help you learn how do we effectively execute security tests? How do we even develop these tests? What should we consider? One of the things that we want to do is we want to remain curious, we want to remain innovative, and we want to kind of keep up with technology, new ways of doing things. And with new technology stacks, another thing that we need to take into consideration is the fact that it does impose additional challenges on what we need to test and how we need to test. So it says, great, I'm going to generate automated security tests to tailor them. Please share any target scopes, information that you require. So it's kind of asking, what do you need to do? So what I'm going to do is click upload, and I'm going to select a functional spec for a casino style game. And again, you can go to my GitHub project. There are examples there that you can use to kind of play around with Magdi AI, and you'll find the URL in the description below. So, what we want to do is, based on that specification, we want to say create Gherkin style test and display in code block windows. That's just to make sure that it doesn't just display it in text and we kind of get code block windows, I hope. And please only basic automated tests and use default assumptions. So we're basically saying, hey, I trust you to kind of develop these tests in the manner that I require, and you can use default assumptions based on the specification that we provided you. So we're going to wait for our response. Hopefully it's performing the task of developing those tests for us. This is something I wish I would have had 20 years ago when I began doing automation. um, at that time, there was no formal approach to doing test automation. Now people have developed one, but being that I kind of created my own approach, I've gotten a little bit stubborn. And it's not to say that the new approaches don't work. I've realized that a lot of people are very innovative. They have very, very good ideas. And a lot of times they will document what they believe is a great approach um, to testing, to test automation. They coin terminology to define methodologies, test types, various terminology that becomes industry standard, and people believe we need to be on the same page. What I kind of realize is that everything is up for a suggestion, because a lot of times when they provide you all of this great information in this approach, or they give you a methodology that they say, oh, use this, it should work, you might find that within your company, the software that you're developing, the demands that it places on you, not everything is an easy fit. You always have to come up with your own methods and ways of doing things to fit the project that you're working on, the software that you're testing, and the company that you're working in. So here is telling you, here's Gherkin style automated test based on the provided spec. And you can see it gave us that code block window that makes it very easy to read. And what's really nice is that it outlines, hey, this is the feature, this is based on API smoke. It gives you the background. So you have your given where then statements. Did I say that correctly? Your scenario, and you can see that it has the statement and all of the requirements in the test. And here are some examples that you can take into consideration, this data that you can use during this test. And if you scroll down, it has additional tests for you to take into consideration. Um, I only ask for the basic automated tests, so you most certainly can develop these files. And you can see it gives you the file name. It tells you where in the project structure you should save the file. But let's say this is only applicable if you already have an existing file and you just want to create tests specifically for the spec to add to your automated test runs. If you need or if you require a new project, you would specify that. So you could see that for each of the features, it has developed the test and it gives you some notes, some additional things that you need to take into consideration. So, this is a second example of how you can leverage Magdi AI. We wanted to give it the flexibility of allowing you to define your style, your tech stack, your output style. So you are in control of how Magdi supports you. So we can click the back button and we check our usage information line. And so for today, we're just getting started. So you can see during those two examples, we really didn't utilize that many tokens. So thank you for spending time with me and see you in the next video.